guys. So I wanted to come in here real quick and give you guys an update because, of course, we're on delay, and I'm sure you guys have seen the absolute bomb that dropped in the courtroom a few minutes. Now it's been probably like 10, 15 minutes ago. I was on the phone doing some things. We've got a house full of kids, so I wasn't able to jump on right away, but I wanted to update you guys really quick on what's actually happening behind the scenes. So after we got kicked out and the jury got kicked out, basically the state went wild. According to what's being said here is after he says this, Wilkins, who is the prosecutor, says, I think at this juncture he's waived his right to continue testifying. He has no intent to follow the rules in this courtroom. He calls Hughes callous and says he's interrupting the criminal justice system. At that point, the judge called both sides to the bench. State says, then they come back and he says, at this point, the defense knows Hughes won't follow the order. The defense then says they've made it clear to Hughes what the instructions are, but that Hughes has a right to testify. And the judge says he's taking a break and he's going to figure out what he's going to do at this point. So absolute quagmire for the judge. And what a moment, because this is exactly what we thought he was going to do. Good for him putting it out there. All right, hold on, buddy. All right, we'll deal with that in a minute. Go ahead. Here. We'll deal with that in a moment. Here, go put it in the kitchen. Excuse me, guys. All right, anyway, sorry about that. So essentially, at this point, the judge is stuck with potentially declaring a mistrial because of what Hughes has said, or shutting Hughes down, which again puts him in a situation where he's restricting a defendant from testifying. He's restricting this guy's right from telling his story and putting and telling why he did it, and essentially robbing him of being able to say anything more because of his refusal to not talk about the sexual or the essay. And or let him continue on and again run right in a cross-examination where undoubtedly this prosecutor is going to run straight into this on cross-examination, and it's going to really start to come out, and we're going to get tossed from the courtroom, and there's going to be screaming and hollering and everything else. So, look, the judge would have been better off allowing a portion of this in, because what Hughes just did and what he just directly said to the jury, which is that the state is hiding this, and then the state asked to be, throws the jury out of the room and plays right into this, the judge should have done something different than what he did. Because the reality is, and again, I haven't delved deep into these externalities because I wanted to kind of be approaching this more like a juror would. But from my understanding, there's a lot of evidence that supports that what he's saying is true. Does that mean he should have gone to this lady's house and killed her? Does that mean he should walk free among us? Not necessarily. But it certainly means that maybe we would look at what he did as a lesser for, convicting him on a lesser account, or maybe they convict him exactly of what they, of what the state's charged him with. But why the state would be afraid to put the full facts in front of this jury, the jurors have to be insulted by it, because they should be allowed to consider this information. They should be allowed to consider why he did it. And then they should be allowed to come up with a determination of what all 12 of these people want to do, as far as, do they believe he should be convicted and go to jail for the rest of his life? They should have let this little girl testify. This is what the case is all about. And the state wants to make it about something else. And I don't understand how the state can go forward and say, listen, we're going to move forward under a theory of this case that he just unalived this woman for no reason at all, when the reason why he unalived the woman was because he believed it to be true that she was doing something inappropriate with her daughter. And whether that's true or not, whether he had enough evidence or not, this is what the jury should be allowed to consider. And the state should have put on the evidence to show that he didn't, either A, he didn't take the time to figure this out, B, it's completely untrue, and it was obvious that he should have known it was untrue. C, that there were other options, and let the state argue the case as they should argue the case under the facts they want to argue it. Because the bottom line is, the question that should be before the jury is, was this truly how this should have gone down? Was it truly appropriate for him to do this drastic action? And was there anything else he could have done? Could he have gone to the police himself? Could he have done something else? Could he have done something besides what he did? And the answer to that question is probably he could have. But then on the other side of it is, should he be convicted of the highest offense of unaliving in the state and go to jail for the rest of his life? And the answer to that is, in my opinion, is not necessarily clear cut either. I think that this is a case where it screams for some sort of a middle ground that the jury could come to when they get to consider all the facts. But the fact that the state wants to hide all of this, and the judge wants to hide all of this, and we're all supposed to be comfortable with it, and they're going to convict him without knowing all the facts and exactly why he did it, is an affront to the jury system. So the very thing that this prosecutor is saying, which is he's interrupting the criminal justice system. No, I think the prosecution's interrupting the criminal justice system, and the judge is. And I'm not saying, hey, that this guy is right in what he did. But without us being able to consider all the facts and all the circumstances, that's what this jury should be considering. And the fact that this prosecutor and this judge thinks that only they are capable of considering those facts, and only they are capable of considering how that should be applied, is offensive, because there's nothing special about them. And if a jury wants to go before, if a jury of 12 wants to acquit this man and let him walk out because of what he did, and here we go, and I think it's ridiculous, Oh, wait a minute. So it looks like Melo was arrested at 1:30, according to Fitz News. Oh, wow. So Melo was arrested based on the testimony. Well, that's interesting. That's interesting news, because, it is saying that he basically said that Melo, I knew Melo was acquitted previously of stuff. Let's pull up Fitz News right now and see what they have on it, if this is true. Fitz News, here we go. So that's interesting information here. Let's see what they have here. Fitz News admits, and let me see if there's anything on this. Let's see here. So I don't see anything yet on this, but let me see if anything is on there. I'm looking right now on Fifth News. I see nothing regarding an arrest, but maybe it's there. I'm going to Google John Melo and see if it pops up that way. Maybe it's just not on there. You'd think. No, new arrest 29 minutes ago. Okay, second man is arrested now. There it is. It's actually, this is coming from the WYFF 4, that there was an arrest. It just happened this afternoon. So sheriff's office said, okay, let me pull it up on the screen for everybody. Let's put it up. I'll keep track if the trial comes. Let's see what we got here. New arrest. I'll share it with everyone. Here we go. And let's put it up. So here it is. This is the article here. New arrest in connection with canebrake unaliving investigation. Yes, the Greenville Sheriff's Office said deputies arrested John Melo, 64, in connection with the unaliving of Christina Parcell. Wow. So I guess they were waiting for him to testify. There's his mugshot. He's been picked up. He had been acquitted of the other charges he'd faced in connection. He's been charged with accessory before the fact and solicitation. So I guess I don't know if he'll get bond. That is potentially he may qualify for bond, but we'll see. And I guess we'll see if he gets out on bond. And I guess we'll be having another trial on this. But here's the question. I guess they could read this testimony to his jury. But it's interesting that the state, decided to not make a deal with this gentleman that's on trial right now. Why not make a deal with him? Why not make a deal with him if he's doing it for the reasons he said he was doing it? If he truly, genuinely believed what John Melo was saying, why did the state not make a deal with this young man and do that instead of putting him through a trial? I mean, I think this young man would have probably pled to something that didn't involve the rest of his life in prison. And now it's going to go before the jury. Now they've got this whole mess before the jury. And you've got this witness now that will he testify for them? I guess as long. And here's the thing. They're going to arrest him based on that testimony. But if they shut down this testimony won't be able to be used because there would be no cross-examination. It will not be complete testimony. So they're going to be put in a situation where would this young man even cooperate with them to go show up at John Melo's trial? Although maybe they feel now they've got, they could use a portion of it. I don't know. But it's not clear cut that without the prosecution completing the cross-examination, his attorneys would be able to argue and say, wait a minute, he was never cross-examined. It was not complete testimony. Although he did give a direct examination where he did talk about what he did, and he talked about the fact that he, John Melo is the reason why he did this. So absolutely shocking stuff. Like I said, this case is crazy. I mean, this is not normal stuff that you see, and the behavior of these people at 9 p.m. on X. Okay, so it's at 9 p.m. All right, I figured that because it is a bondable offense. So I figured they would be having a bond hearing but we'll see if he gets out. I'm sure he'll probably be granted some sort of bond, but it'll probably be really high, and it may be impossible for him to get out. But I am shocked they moved so fast on this, especially when they're trying to shut this guy down instead of letting him talk and saying, who's the real boogeyman here, right? I mean, who are we believing here? If they're going to go arrest this guy, it's just ridiculous. That if they don't, and again, I don't know all the ins and outs of this because, first of all, we haven't seen all the evidence yet. And secondly, I don't know what is or isn't on this hard drive that was collected in post locker, but allegedly there is confirmation of some of what he's saying to be true. And like I said, the jury should get the opportunity to hear this, and they should be able to hear from this little girl about what she went through and endured at the hands of her mother and this guy. And if this woman truly got possession of her child for that purpose, to harm her child like that, then the jury should be able to consider that. And that is really evil. And, that should be a factor that should be considered in how this plays out. It's kind of like a movie, where we're at in with this. This is like a movie scenario here where you've got this guy on the stand and he's talking about it, and he's talking about this nightmare. But what I think is funny is because the state moved on this guy, so many people I've seen in our chat, I've been observing Law and Crimes chat, so many people want to think the worst of this guy, and they think he's full of BS. But if you go do a little bit of digging into the case, you're going to see that some of what I think his affect is a little bit off because it's just the nature of who he is, because he's kind of a savant. So he's probably got a little, just a little of that oddness to him. But the bottom line is, if you go dig into this, if you don't just get the sanitized state version of this case, there is evidence to support what his testimony is. So we will, it's very interesting. Well, the reason why, and Deanie Cole, I see your comment there where you said you can't figure out why the state, because this is par for the course BS that happens when the state, again, if you look at Fitz News, and again, I want to judge this by what's in the courtroom, but if you look at Fitz News and if you dig a little into the background of this case, there's a lot of politics around this case. There are a lot of people heavily involved in this case that didn't take action, that got involved and got on the wrong side of this thing, and they don't want their name covered up in this. So they want to try to deal with this, without saying, okay, they don't want it all to come out. Let's put it that way, because it's a really really bad situation for how this was handled and what this little girl went through. Because I want you to think about this. There were people and officials. You don't just go to Italy and bring a child back. And there were people involved in high level and high places because of Post's connections that got this child back, and then they treated this child inappropriately. That's a big deal. Okay, that's a big deal, especially if it comes out that, guess what, this child was safe in another country, and the authorities in that area use their pool to bring her back and got her back to South Carolina, where she ends up being inappropriately treated. So there's a lot to this that isn't, this is the bureaucracy of this little county and this little community who are covering for people who made a mess of this situation, and they don't want them to be held responsible. They don't want the lawsuits to come, and they don't want the accountability to be held for people. And of course, you have this situation where this guy, this pianist, and I think what the defense is trying to put before this jury is like, I mean, if you listen to this guy, I mean, listen, he's clearly, a little bit. I don't know that he should have done what he did. I don't think he should have. I think there were other options, but he felt like there wasn't. And he felt like this little girl was in danger, and there was an expiration date that was coming up to where John Melo was never going to be able to get custody. It was expiring, and it was right on that date. That was I believe the 12th, I think, or 13th was when this date was hitting. It was in the testimony of the lady that was handling the child custody stuff. And when that happened, the doors were closing, and they were going to have her. And then it's up to John Melo to have to continue, to disprove this negative. And again, what we're talking about here, I don't know if it's true or not, but I'm saying this is how this young man felt. So when he went to go do this, the question before the jury is, was this something that he, how do you deal with this? How do you deal with this scenario? Well, new girl, who's off his rocker? Are you talking about this guy? Because I don't think we don't know, because all I know, and again, I just know that Post is in jail because of images and stuff and materials related to the daughter, what he was doing with that little girl. That's all I know. And I don't know all the ins and outs of it, because I don't, but that's what I've read and that's what I've seen. So, did everyone hear John Melo? Yes, John Melo. Yes, we did. We were just talking about that. Never mind. Well, I'm just saying, I mean, look, your opinion is welcome here. So I don't want you to ever feel like you can't express an opinion here. I'm just saying, again, from what I've read, there's stuff to this. Now, that does not mean what he did is what you're supposed to do, right? But that's the question that this jury should be debating back there. Where do you lay? What punishment do you put forth to this young man if he genuinely believed this girl was at danger and he went and did this? How do we deal with that? What is the charge he should be held accountable for? And maybe he should be charged and sent away for the rest of his life. I mean, he took a life. It was premeditated. It was brutal. It was terrible. But this is a precursor to what's going to happen in New York City when Luigi Mangione goes on trial and is going to put forth similar items, except this is going to deal with the health insurance industry and what the CEO did. And this is the same thing that's going on in the same way that defense is going to be conducted up there. So A-Rod says it was still planned and committed by him, regardless of the reason. He is guilty of the highest offense. I mean, well, and you know what, A-Rod, I respect that, because you're right. He is guilty, right? He is guilty. The question is, what does the jury decide? But the jury should decide. And if all 12 people go back there, review all the facts, get everything before them, and say, you know what, regardless, hands tied, he needs to be punished, and he needs to be held accountable with the highest charge, and then let the judge delve out the punishment, whatever that is and whatever that requires. We all respect that, right? I mean, this young man took that on his he took on that responsibility when he decided to do this. Deanie Cole Holland says she agrees, and like I said, I respect that. no deal for neither. Well, A-Rod, the only thing is that the purpose of doing deals is because they need one or the other to get the other. And this guy, Melo, has sat now free for years. So the question is, who do you want to get off the street? If this young man would have been willing to come forward and say what he just said today in court, and he could have done so and said, okay, you're going to get second degree, right? Or you're going to get, and you're going to get 20 years or 30 years, but you're going to help us get this other guy. But the question is, like, if they're doing it to save a little girl's life, because this woman, I mean, I guarantee you, and this is the thing, right? And this is what I challenge all of you to think about. If this lady was arrested and it was found that she was doing these unspeakable things to her daughter, what would you all be calling for? You'd be calling for the death penalty for her. You'd be saying she deserves a firing squad. And she would go and subject her daughter to the things that allegedly she did and that this guy believes she did. So the thing is, but then we turn around and go, well, should he have done this? Well, he just took the matter into his own hands. And how do we, what do you do? All right, give me one moment, everyone.
I don't know what I'm spelling. I saw.
Anyways, we were dealing with some self-reporting there. My 5-year-old has decided to self-report on himself. He likes to tell on these little things he does, and he was apparently, so he was self-reporting on himself. But anyways, so Deanie Cole Holland says he could have gone to the police and lodged a complaint to help protect the child. Absolutely, right. He could have done that, right? But here's the problem. What he just put in his testimony, they were trying to do that. Listen, here's what you guys don't know. They went to the police, and an investigator that testified in this trial investigated and refused to do anything, and it was unfounded. So there wasn't a police option. See, these are the facts that we don't know right now because the state is hiding it. This is the situation where there was no options. And then here's the problem. Once this happened, the hard drives were found with the evidence showing allegedly that what they were alleging was happening, to which the police had been investigating, and the police had come back and said there was no evidence of, and they weren't moving forward with anything. So again, this is the problem. This is why I said this, for the state of South Carolina to be comfortable moving forward, robbing the jury of the full story and not allowing for us, the public, the jury, everyone involved to see this entire thing for how it was and to make that determination and say, how should he be punished? Was this truly in defense? Again, remember, the defense was wanting to say that he did this in defense of the child because they had completely run out of options, tried everything they could. They were trying in the courts. They lost. They got the police involved. Police said unfounded. And then, of course, what happens? It eventually comes out that the police didn't do their job. This is why I said there are people that were involved in this situation who are wanting to cover things up because the truth does not make them look good. And the truth could result in them having problems too. So the state wants to try to hold these two guys accountable while at the same time protecting all of their people from getting any type of consequences because of what they did that also ultimately resulted in a young child being harmed. And it's a tightrope walk. And now they're in this trial. And now we're going to see what happens with whether or not this judge allows them to continue the cross-examination or not. And I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen here. Let's see if court's back in session yet. In the blog that we have, let me see here. Zach Hughes blog, trial blog. Let's see what we got here. So there it is. There it is. Update from the courthouse. There it is. Fox, Carolina. So let's see. The judge has dismissed the jury for. The judge just. Okay, so defense says they have no further questions. So he does return to the stand. This is about 17 minutes ago. The defense continues questioning him. The judge is holding Hughes in contempt of court. Okay. So they are going to go back in session in I'd say about 7 minutes from now, and then we're going to be on break. It's not going to be long. Looks like it's going to go about 20 more minutes, and then the judge is going to dismiss everyone for today. So in about 7 minutes, we will be back on. It looks like the case isn't going to start tomorrow until about 10:30 in the morning. So it looks like the judge has decided he's going to be allowed to continue testifying, and then they're going to hold him in contempt of court, which is a charge he'll face. Even if he were to get acquitted in this case, he will still face that charge for his actions and behaviors. So there we go. So we'll see what happens. So we're, like I said, we're see how it plays out, because I'm sure it'll be interesting to watch it all play out. So we've got about 15-20 minutes more of testimony today. The direct is going to get finished, and then we're going to be done for the day, and then the jury will be back tomorrow, and then I don't know where things go from there. I don't know how much, I assume there's going to be a cross-examination. It would be interesting if the state said, you know what, we don't want to risk cross-examining them because we don't want more of this to come out. We don't want him to have a chance to say things or answer questions in a way that would include any more information. So we'll see. But that'll all happen tomorrow. I don't know what else the defense is going to present because they're limited. They can't present really anything else. Their case was going to be the daughter and everything around it, proving that actually what they're saying happened, the impact it was having on her life, and they were going to put all this up because it was going to be trying to say that she was being harmed and was in danger. It's very convoluted, Deanie. It is very convoluted, and but this is what's been created when you have a cover-up happen. This is what cover-ups are convoluted. Cover-ups are complicated, and this is the problem, right? If there wasn't the cover-up, they could just go forward with this case. And the question again is, what are we trying to do here? Are we trying? This should be about the truth. And this should be about, and the truth should never be feared. And it should go to the jury, and the jury should be able to consider the facts, and they should be able to consider the truth. And then it is what it is. And then the Simontelli trial will come back at 4:30. They're on lunch break right now. In that case, what a disturbing case that is when you talk about what this lady's done. And some of the wild things she was doing. I don't know what these people are thinking. I don't know what they're putting in toothpaste things or putting things on letters. I mean, it is absolutely just mind-bogglingly disgusting on how these two people conducted themselves. Makes no sense. The thing is, with that particular case, I've seen a lot of people talk about the fact that they're like, why is the state being so thorough? Well, they're being thorough because they have one of the best attorneys in the country in that courtroom. And they actually have a whole team of attorneys that are extremely experienced. Even the one that everybody hates that says all the time. She's a very well-respected attorney. This lady, I guess, has spent her portion of her fortune on legal help to try to get out of this situation. So when you have again, what a case that's going to be when you have Robert Baker getting on the stand saying that she's innocent, and you're going to see a very unique scenario occur when the prosecutor is going to be cross-examining a killer and trying to show that this guy is lying and trying to get him to say that she was involved. And will they be successful? I have no idea. But when you have some of the best attorneys in the country, you have a guy who's willing to come in and say their client is innocent, you've got to be extra thorough. You've got to throw everything you can out there to combat that, because you don't know how this is going to go, and you don't know how the jury will receive Robert Baker. And the whole point is, what they're doing right now is it's as much about showing that Robert Baker is a liar with whatever story he concocts, and also putting things into the record that they're going to be ready to confront him with when he gets on the stand. So we'll keep that in mind as you're watching that case. But this case, unbelievable stuff. So let's get ready. Dial it in. It's coming up. They're going to be back in the courtroom. I would say maybe in about 2 to 3 more minutes based on I'm doing some calculations based on the live blog and the fact we're on a 30-minute delay. So hopefully we get back to it. Because like I said, I'm interested to see the end of this direct examination. And then we're going to have to wait to see that cross. But tomorrow will be a very, very fun day. So tune in here, be back here. We will be airing it. It looks like if they're starting at 10:30, we get a lazy day tomorrow because we won't have to be here till 11 to watch. And then Simontelli, of course, is West Coast, so us East Coasters are getting it, waiting on that. That's 12:30, so it'll be a late day tomorrow. So we can all stay up late if we want to, I guess, and we don't have to be up bright and early for the trials. But we'll see what happens here. So I'm going to jump off here, guys. I'll be back probably to follow up, depending on how this goes and what we see, to bid everyone adieu for the day. And then, like I said, we're gonna dig deeper into the Simontelli trial. I want to talk a little bit about ASAP Rocky. So there's going to be some shows coming up. So keep your notifications on so we can have some talks. We're going to be doing some live shows and things. We're going to be deep diving into these cases, and we're going to be using AI and things to deep dive these witnesses, ask them questions, get your questions ready, and we can really start trying to do some unique things here to dig into these cases and figure it out in a way that will help us gain a better and broader understanding of things. So anyways, with that said, guys, I'm going to throw us back to the courtroom, and we'll go from there.